Welcome to the Veterans in Politics Talk Show. Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, live stream on Facebook.
Welcome to the joint Veterans Endorsement interviews for non-judicial candidates. On the outset, I'd like to formally recognize and thank our sponsoring organizations for making today's event possible. Mary Perry, Clark County District Court, Family Division, Department P. Christine Brewer, Clark County District Court, Family Division, Department S. Chris Cannon, North Las Vegas Municipal Court, Department 1, Veterans in Politics International, and Nevada Veterans Association. Also like to extend a sincere appreciation to our additional sponsors and community partners whose support helps ensure a professional, fair, and transparent endorsement process. We're honored to have them all with us today. Before we begin the interviews, I'd like to go over the rules and the format. First, we'll have each panel member introduce themselves by stating the names and the organization they represent. Next, each of you will have an opportunity to introduce yourself. Please include the office you're running for and explain why you are seeking that position. Then we'll transition to the interview portion. Please remember, this is an interview, not a debate. Candidates may not ask questions to one another, and keep all your responses directed to the panel members. In the interest of fairness, each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question. When you have 30 seconds remaining, you will be shown a yellow card. When the time has expired, you'll be shown a blue card. You may finish your sentence, but you will then be asked to conclude. Please be respectful of the time. After that, you'll be given 1 minute to give a closing remark. Starting with you, Candace.
Cindy Lake, Veterans in Politics International, welcome.
John Brookhagen. I'm not a veteran, but I'm happy to contribute and represent veterans in politics.
Bill Carnes, I'm representing Nevada Veterans Association.
Sue Christensen, Veterans in Politics International.
Gary Whitemont from Point Marine Association, representing Veterans in Politics International.
Martin Walker, Nevada Veterans Association. We starting with you.
My name is Jeff Carter. You can find me on the web at jeffcarternv.com. I'm running for state treasurer. I don't represent any organization except myself, but you can go to my blog at jeffreycartersubstack.com and learn a lot about me. I blogged about finance since about 2010 there. And I thank them all of you for your time. It's been a long day. And I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity. My name is Dr. J. Maharjan. I'm a special education teacher at a local charter school for the last 4 years. But I'm running for state treasurer. In the past, I've led the state for the White House, and I've been on the national security policy groups and more related to the veterans issues. I've been involved in the past. Thank you again. My website is Dr. J for Nevada, DRJAY, 4, Nevada.com.
And my name is Drew Johnson. I am running for Nevada State Treasurer. Honored to be back with you all, and I've been fortunate to earn your endorsements in the past, and I hope I can do the same again this year. I'm running because I have a 25-year background in state budgets and public finance as a government watchdog, protecting every dollar that I can. And so I believe that it's very important that we have somebody who not only understands finance, but can be a good advocate for taxpayers' money. And I will be that. Again, Drew Johnson, running for Nevada State Treasurer.
Gentlemen, thank you once again for showing up. And I just want to nip something in the bud. This race has become unusually personal for a financial office. And without revisiting every detail, there have been public accusations and responses involving family and personal issues. Do you believe anything said in this race thus far has crossed a professional line? And what standards would you set for yourself moving forward? Because there's been opportunities to bring down the temperature in this particular situation, and I feel like every opportunity has been squandered. So I just wanted to understand where you come from on this. We're going to go Jeff, Drew, and then you'll have a chance to participate if you'd like. Thank you.
Has it crossed the line? Yeah, because my opponent has totally lied. He said I was a part of the crypto lawsuit. The panel has the paperwork that shows I was dismissed. We gave it to Drew before he went public. We gave it to the writers. They shopped it to 4 newspapers and nobody ran with it, but he put it out. With regard to the other thing, I stand by my statement. I think girls are the victims. When boys play against girls in sports, girls are the victims. And nothing will change my mind about that. And that's what I said. That's an important issue, but it has nothing to do with the treasurer's race. And all these issues have nothing to do with the treasurer's race because the person I'm running against in the primary has no financial experience at all whatsoever. And I have 40 years of it. 40 years, a 40-year career, success. Took an exchange public, set up a venture capital fund, made millions of dollars.
Oh, we still have 30 seconds left. Is there anything that you could do yourself moving forward to bring down the temperature and conduct this?
Sure. Politics isn't beanbag, but I think you can draw distinctions which are fair, which is what I've done. I think the slimy personal attacks that Drew is engaged in, you have to defend yourself, and he has a history of doing it in every one of his campaigns. So I'm going to defend myself against slimy attacks, but I think you can draw distinctions, and the choice in this race is clear because one person has financial experience and one doesn't, and one has the qualifications for treasurer and one doesn't.
Thank you. Drew.
First, I look forward to talking about the fact that the Treasurer's office is not actually about financial investing. With regards to the crypto lawsuit, first of all, to implicate me in putting that information out is completely unfair. Second, from everything that I have seen, you were dismissed because of a jurisdictional issue, not a lack of your involvement in ripping off people with a crypto scam.
Please address the panelists.
To your point, John. So I was shocked when an opponent would talk about my vasectomy on Veterans in Politics. I had a vasectomy because my wife has a medical condition that does not allow her to carry a baby to term. I had a vasectomy to protect my wife's health and also the fact that we would be killing a baby unnecessarily after a few weeks because she cannot carry a baby. So for him, my opponent, to say that my vasectomy was anti-family values, which was the wording he used on Veterans in Politics, was absolutely ridiculous. And then to belittle my wife's involvement working with our great Lieutenant Governor Salvador Anthony, who is just in here. She created the office, the Task Force to Protect Women's Sports. Because of his bravery and her insight, her decision to do that, we now have protected women's sports. She has as much right as a parent, as much right as anybody else to express her beliefs in that. And I'm damn proud that she was able to do that.
And Dr. Maharjan, I apologize that, this doesn't necessarily involve you. That's why I wanted to get it over with in the first place. Would you like to say anything?
No comment on that. But regarding my own lane within Democratic primary, I'm a school teacher. It's not only symbolic. I'm in classroom every day. So I have very little time to campaign. So I'm very much focused on my own background from engineering to 3 masters in business, finance, public policy, and doctorate in education from USC. One of my masters is in leadership, the cohort with a lot of veterans, my professor being David Petraeus and all. But the point is I'm running to protect taxpayer dollars and also invest in the future, right? I mean, it's very personal to me. So kids in my classroom. And so my lane, I can't be more clear. This is a fiduciary job, and it's not a political one. So I'm going to offer, or something I'm offering is fiduciary in nature, my expertise in finance. I have an MBA as well. So that's all I want to say, in the spirit of leadership.
Thank you for being a teacher. And just so you guys know, we'll take turns going first from here on out.
Bill Carnes, Nevada Veterans Association. I just want to give my 2 cents. Whatever beef you two have going against each other, in my eyes, is absolutely sophomoric, and you should clean it up. You're not even running against each other in the primary. You may in the general. You should probably concentrate on your primary races, not the general race, until you get there. Are you? I thought you were unaffiliated. No. Okay, have at it. But look, have at it above board. Politics in Nevada is a blood sport, and it's only that way because we allow it to be. It's up to you guys whether or not you're going to raise the bar. That being said, Article 5, Section 19 of the Nevada Constitution establishes the duties of the treasurer of the state of Nevada. What are those duties?
So it's a constitution, protecting the Constitution of Nevada, related to debt ceiling, if I'm not mistaken. Again, well, I'm not aware of the nuances. Could you give me a little bit more context? Or
all I will say is you're an educator, so I mean, just to understand, if you're going to apply for a job, you're probably going to want to look and see what the qualifications are required for the job and what the duties of the job are. So I'm not going to answer the question for you, but just let you know that it can be found in, again, it was, I know it's Article 5, Section, what was it that I said? Now I moved my notes. Section 19 of the Nevada State Constitution can be found there.
Again, thank you for bringing it up, and I'll go back and review it, and I'll come up with a response.
Yeah. So the constitutional sort of guidance for the treasurer is fairly limited. It's accepting money and investing it. The legislature, and that money ultimately is turned over to the controller to be spent for, that's the next part of the Constitution, for the state's needs. But what the treasurer does, if you'd like me to answer that in a day-to-day, the treasurer runs the investments, but not directly. He runs a 5-person board who handles the investments. The investments that can be made are extraordinarily limited. He runs a 6-person board for 529s and ABLE accounts for disabled Nevadans. He runs the Millennium Scholarship, which is failing right now. It's about to run out of money, so he'll be in charge of, she will be in charge of protecting that and ensuring that it will be around for the future. So those are the main. The unclaimed property is a crucial part. That's actually in the Constitution, if I'm not mistaken. A crucial part of what the treasurer does, because we have $1 billion in unclaimed property that it's our job to get back to the people of the state.
Yeah, I think I would defer with both of these guys on what the treasurer's role is based on what the Constitution says. The treasurer chairs and is active in 6 different committees. Every job that the treasurer does involves handling money. So there's a 5-person board. The treasurer chairs it. The governor doesn't show up with like financing ideas. He listens to what the treasurer does and wants to do. The treasurer manages the funds of counties and cities in another bucket. They take care of the Millennium Scholarship, which is kind of broke right now, by the way. And they also, like Drew said, have unclaimed property that they have to get rid of and find their owners for. And there's a lot of red tape currently in the treasurer's office for that. I have a technological solution for that to modernize the treasury to get it done faster. Everything that the treasurer does involves money and investing. You are investing a short-term portfolio, a medium-term portfolio in U.S. treasuries. You have to buy agency futures, corporate bonds, and sometimes international debt, depending on the situation in the market and what the yield curve, the MOB spread, and the NOB spread are telling you. You have to understand the market, and you have to understand what to do in certain situations when things happen. It's not sexy investing like single stocks or futures or anything like that. It is block and tackling investing, but it is very important, and you just can't choose the bigger number and chase yield. That will bankrupt the state.
Sue Christensen, Veterans in Politics. Jeff, we're going to start with you. What specific reforms would you make to improve financial transparency in Nevada government?
That's a great question. And I'm all about financial transparency. The first thing I would do is end the DEI ESG investing that the current treasurer has done. He has politicized that office, and I would get rid of all the politics. The thing that you have to do is return on assets, not return on virtue. You have to make decisions, and you can look this up on the internet at home. It's called positive economics versus normative economics. Use data to guide your decision making, and you have strong opinions loosely held. I would try to do what Andy did with the Treasury. He put every check online if we could, and it wasn't a danger to Nevada's portfolio, because sometimes you don't want to disclose exactly what your position is because people can press it against you. Put it online. Let people see. And I think you should be very transparent with the legislature about how the funds are being managed, what your rate of return is. Currently, our rate of return is about 3.14%. And south of the border in Arizona, it's over 7%. I think we should figure out why. Utah's treasurer has been exemplary and being transparent, Mario Oakes, and he's written a testimonial to me, and I'm going to follow a lot of the things that he's done. I've interfaced with 5 state treasurers before running for this race and deciding to run for this race, and I've got a lot of mentorship there. I also have an international network of people that I can call on day one, and I'm ready to go day one. It's not an on-the-job training program for me.
So, first of all, the reason that Arizona has such better returns than we have is because we have a different set of rules that apply to us because of what happened to us in 2008 when Kate Marshall lost about $50 million out of the treasurer's funds. And after that, the state legislature, for those of you who were around back then will remember this, changed the rules to limit what the treasurer can invest in to the point where it both limits us and it protects us. But to your point about transparency, I've spent my career filing open records requests, exposing government waste. I've been credited for saving taxpayers about $60 billion in my career. A lot of that work has actually been done with Andy Matthews, our state controller. And Andy, as Jeff mentioned, has done a great job of putting the state spending online. We do not have a state auditor. We're one of, I believe, 8 or 9 states without a state auditor. Minnesota is one that does not. California is one that does not. And you see the problems they've had with their Medicaid programs recently. So in addition to what we do as treasurer, managing 45 people who help make these decisions, managing these boards and commissions that help make these decisions, I will be able to take the background that I have as one of America's best government watchdogs to protect every penny that comes into this state. And I'll work with Andy Matthews to basically be the de facto auditor for this state.
I agree with both of them regarding the need to keep everything transparent. I've been fighting all my life as far as whether I led Nevada for President Obama's public-private initiative, $1 billion public-private initiative, or everything else where the stewardship was involved. But the way I would approach is very different because my doctoral research was on managing treasury. So my dissertation was on management practices of sovereign wealth funds. So my literature review was I reviewed all the sovereign wealth funds from around the world. My core research, I interviewed fund managers from both blue and red states, from Alaska, Texas. Collectively, they're leading $500 billion. So during that process, I have documented, I'd be honored to share with you guys a copy. My dissertation has been shared at the federal level, state level. A lot of folks have already read it. So right there, I'm very transparent how I'm going to do it. So within that dissertation, one area I really inquired about was the implication of funds, the governance of funds being led by legislative body or the independent auditors or third party entities managing these funds. So again, it was unbiased. So the findings I'll be happy to share with everyone, but I'll absolutely stick to the best practices I learned from both blue and red states and apply here. We're already, best time was 30 years ago or even 100 years ago, like Texas did with their land grants, but the second best time is now for Nevada. So I'm going to bring that.
Gary White, Veterans in Politics. Gentlemen, I have three major questions, but we're going to do one at a time until as we go around our rotation. Transportation. This is real. This is not theoretical. The Valley needs a light rail system, period. I'm tired of hearing the excuses of we don't have the money, we can find the money. We don't have the will, we can find a way. Gentlemen, what would you be able to do to support the idea of a light rail system here in the Valley? I do warn you, I am a transportation specialist in rail, so I do know what I'm talking about. This Valley is growing by leaps and bounds. It's expanding. We're getting professional teams. We have expensive concerts that nobody can get to. What can you do to help us as a state and make the Reno area transportation more robust?
Gary, you're a straight shooter. And I'll be honest with you, not a damn thing really, because it's up to the state legislature to make those decisions. What we do is either through the state infrastructure bank or through bonding, if the legislature says make this money available, we do that. So the number one thing that I can do is make sure that we keep the rainy day fund filled, which it is completely full right now, so that we can have great bond ratings, great credit ratings, so that if we do if we're asked by the state legislature and the governor to fund these projects, that it can be done so as cheaply as possible, that it impacts taxpayers as little as possible, and get it done that way. But Treasurer just cannot do that sort of thing on their own.
Thanks for the question. I agree the treasurer can't do that on their own. It's a legislative thing. I would point out that in the Valley, we are building out the boring company thing, which seems to be going okay. And the other thing I would point out is that everybody has a fascination with high-speed rail. Brightline East is going to go bankrupt between June and September of this year. The S&P just reported that they're going to be unable to meet their bond obligations. And I don't know how we're going to get the bonds auctioned off for Brightline West. Unfortunately, that's all private money. So the state of Florida is insulated, and so far in Nevada, it's insulated. I'm supportive of, transportation projects and widening of roads. I talked to a mayor in Fernley, and he said the biggest problem they have is infrastructure because they've got so much mining up there. I have a solution for that. Because when just Fernley goes out to the market to issue a bond, they get one rating. They have to pay all the costs for it. You can pool all that among everybody and set up an LLC, issue the bonds one time, get a better rate, have one audit. It'll cost about $50,000 to issue them instead of spreading that cost over every individual city. I think transportation is incredibly important. And one of the reasons that I moved to Nevada from Chicago is because of the 215 and the fact that you can get anywhere here in 15 minutes. It's incredible. And the airport's incredible. I think you can look at light rail, but it does have to start with the legislature.
Okay, homeboy, let me explain something to you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just had to. I'm from Chicago. So we split on some of the same sidewalks. One of the more important things, and 2 out of 3 so far, Jay is next up. When we keep hearing what we can't do. Yeah, I understand that the treasurer is limited to what treasurer duties are. but you do have ears. You do have someone you can whisper to and talk about the importance of tying this in. 215 is perfect. So are the crossways. We have Union Pacific Railroad that is here that can run all the way from Boulder City all the way up to Apex. So keep that in mind. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you for bringing this up. I disagree with colleagues on this point on a procedural basis. Treasurer of Nevada Treasurer does have legislative power. Okay, so any given season, legislative season, Treasurer can bring up to 5 bills. So as an educator, obviously I prioritize education, but transportation is also very close to my heart because that was one of the reasons President Obama appointed me for the public-private initiative to bring all the economic initiatives in Nevada. So the startup NV is very popular right now, $250 million in funding. But the founders used to be on my call, White House call. I would do statewide calls. And so I was directly involved in that. Brightline is another initiative I strongly support publicly. We need that so that during Olympics or tourists can come here and we can benefit from that. But back to those 5 bills Treasurer can bring. So I'm not just going to be in those areas that I can't do anything. I am going to step in and propose bills. So thank you for your feedback. I'll keep that in mind. And yeah.
Right. So, Mr. Johnson, you've spent a career exposing government waste and advocating for taxpayer transparency. Dr. Maharjan, all right, you're noted for advocating for sovereign wealth funds. While there's an advantage to these types of funds, one of the arguments against them is that they lack transparency.
I wouldn't say advocating. That was my doctoral research.
You'll get a chance. Yes, I understand that you did your doctoral on that, but I've also even in your earlier statement you advocate for that sovereign wealth model. So there's the arguments against them is that they lack transparency because they don't because some of it is foreign investment and also it doesn't because they're funds they don't show all of the where the investment is going. Mr. Carter, you have 40 years experience as a professional trader and understand the realities of trading floor discipline. Comparing your different philosophies, please explain why your philosophy is better for Nevada taxpayers.
All right, this is my research, so I better answer this properly, okay? Again, the devil is in the details, right? So I'm not advocating for sovereign wealth funds per se. Sovereign wealth fund is, there are different ways to explain that. Some call it social wealth fund, some call it citizens fund. So whatever you call it, it's a public money, invest in particular way, right? And so it's devil is in the details, it's in nuances. Like I was sharing with you earlier, there are different models I explored empirically in my research. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm running a Democratic primary, and my, being an immigrant, fighting for equity, fighting for veterans. I could go in the bills I supported when I was a part of the White House, social wealth funds can be very transparent, but we just have to pick the right model. Different states, billions of dollars. Some are led by legislators. Some are led by third-party auditing bodies, and there are different models. So we can't say sovereign wealth funds are bad, social wealth funds are bad. I'm absolutely for transparency. I know how to do it, but at the same time, I do want to push for equitable causes for public good. As far as money investing in funds, not the countries supporting terrorism or whatever, but the funds that actually care about the people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The question was, why is your philosophy better than the others.
Sure. Again, philosophy. I would, having finished my master's and doctorate from USC, almost 6 years, I rely less on philosophy per se. Like I said, I'm for equity and, but more just the logical aspect of things. I'm an engineer, so I could talk from the technical point of view as well. But okay, sorry.
Gary, really quickly to your point, one thing that I will do when it comes to transportation funding is we help create the project labor agreements, and I'll make damn sure that veterans have a seat at that table and have first bite at that apple. So I wanted to mention that. To your point, Martin, so ultimately what's funny about this, differences between me and Jeff, ultimately nothing will be very different in how money is invested because the fund managers we use, the custodians we use, basically all the Republicans who are treasurers. Jeff and I have spoken to the same people. There are about 7 or 8 people who I've spoken to who are current treasurers, and ultimately these fund managers, the same treasurers from different states use a lot of the same people. So I would imagine that I would be ultimately picking a lot of the same people that Jeff would, to the extent that I have any authority. The value here about my approach is that we aren't the ones making these decisions. We're on boards of 5, 6 people. We've got 45 people working with us to make these decisions. You aren't some rogue cowboy doing day trading like has been portrayed here. So what this ultimately comes down to is managing 45 people, making sure government is transparent and accountable here in Nevada, making sure that unclaimed property gets back to people, making sure that there are opportunities to protect the Millennium Scholarship. And so that is what this is all about. The treasurer, it sounds like it's about investing, but that's a very small part of the job. And we need people who will hold government accountable and make sure that spending is transparent.
Thanks for the question, Martin. Drew's absolutely wrong about what he just said. I tell you a quick story. I had a 529 program in Illinois for my daughter's college, and the Illinois treasurer lost 38% of it. Because, sure, it's outsourced to a consultant, but he didn't know the right questions to ask, and they put real estate wrapper around government bonds that I invested in, which were really safe. How do you tell your daughter that a treasurer lost 38%? You have to know the right questions to ask. Sure, it's outsourced, but you got to know. You can't just pick the bigger number and be a yield chaser. You have to know. Prices are in the market. I was a professional trader. I wasn't a day trader. I traded against Goldman Sachs. I traded against Morgan Stanley, and I built positions, and I traded the yield curve. I did exactly what the treasurer does. You run a $12 billion portfolio in short-term interest rates. What happens when interest rates are going to go down? How do you know? I know where to look, and I know how to adjust the portfolio. And you work with your consultant to do that. It's not you have a 5-person committee for advice, but the treasurer has to know. You can't outsource that. You got to know. I have a 40-year career in finance. None of my opponents, Democrat or Republican, have any career in finance. I also did venture capital. I've done everything in finance. I've been on the opposite side of the table from investment bankers discussing $1 billion transaction. You have to have that experience. This is not an on-the-job trading thing.
Right. So at this point,
I want you to know I'm getting in trouble because none of you are abiding by the time limits. I'm sorry to interrupt, Martin.
I'm about to say the same thing. So again, I need you to be respectful of the timeline. That's why we have him here there. At this point, we're going to move to 1 minute responses versus a minute versus 90-second responses. Again, please be respectful of the time.
Thank you. Cindy Lake, Veterans in Politics International, gentlemen. Nevada Constitution, Article 8, Section 6. No bank notes or paper of any kind shall ever be permitted to circulate as money in the state, except the federal currency and the notes of banks authorized under the laws of Congress. Nevada legislation AB 359, 2526 aims to exempt gold, silver, platinum, and palladium bullion coins from sales tax, recognizing them as sound money and legal tender. What are your positions? Thank you.
So one thing that I would like to see, is there are quite a few states, I think about 15 right now, that accept precious metals as a form of payment for taxes. And I think as a hedge against inflation, as just a reserve, I think it's completely reasonable to do that and have that as a reserve. So I would encourage that. I've actually considered that being one of my 5 bills.
Thank you for your brevity. Mr. Carter.
It's a very interesting question. There's a market for metals, so you can value them. I would not take it for taxes. I would take cash. That works really well. We've had it forever. I think the fact that you are limited by the government as to what you can invest in is a good idea. That gives you enough latitude in the portfolio to make great investments, get good return on a risk-adjusted basis, and that's the key thing. You have to understand how to analyze risk, and I'm happy to do that for Nevada people.
Peter Drucker was my mentor at the business school, and he would always say, "Do the right thing before you do things right." And so I wouldn't jump on like giving you an exact answer. I would bring in experts. I'd have them measure. He also said, "What gets measured gets managed." So I would do that. I'd bring in subject matter experts to look at this seriously.
Thank you. And more broadly speaking, though, Nevada's investment approach has to balance safety, liquidity, and yield under obvious statutory constraints. Can you walk us through how you would structure the state's portfolio, specifically your target allocation between short-term instruments, fixed income, and higher yield assets, and how you'd adjust that in a rising or falling rate environment? Mr. Carter.
Can't get this in a minute, so I'll give you. That's a pretty complicated thing. First thing you have to know is you have to know what the cash needs of your constituents that you're managing the money for are. That's got to go in a short-term portfolio. It's got to be liquid. You got to be able to get in and out of that portfolio. So you're talking about a 3-month bill or less. Then you can start to look at extending the duration of the portfolio into 1, 2, 3, 5-year notes. Those, again, are treasuries. They're safe. They're highly liquid. You can get in and out of them. The problem with corporates, the problem with agencies is that you cannot always get out. Our treasury has bonds out in the market right now that people can't sell because there's no market for them. The treasury actually should be making a market for them and wiping off debt, which we could do easily if we had somebody that understood markets in the treasury. I would not be in anything that is not liquid. So you have to look at the prices in the bond market, and you have to understand how yield relates to what the price is being and the bid-ask spread. Because if you don't know the bid-ask spread, you're not going to be able to get out.
Thank you. Dr. Maharjan.
Yeah, I agree. It's extremely hard to answer in 1 minute. So again, my approach is I documented everything in my dissertation, and I'd be honored to share a copy with the nuances. I would focus still on best practices, how some of the highest performing states are doing. And like I said, I interviewed fund managers directly. And so they pretty much shared like all the tools, software, everything. So it's very transparent, my dissertation. And also there is a nuance. One thing I remember, one of the fund managers shared with me that, when it comes to long-term investing, by the time the results come in, they get moved around. The political economy is a part of my dissertation. So I'm
sorry to interrupt, but you still have 10 seconds left. Mr. Carter did give us some ideas about how he would position assets and what he would do in the short term and long term and why in as short a period of time as possible. Can you just give us some ideas about how you would position Nevada's assets to mix liquidity as well as getting the best yield under the statutory conditions?
So my proposal is when it comes to social wealth fund or a sovereign wealth fund, I'm not talking about moving the money, existing money. So I would keep the best practices of the current treasury, But when it comes to the long term, that's where my long term building social wealth fund comes in play.
Thank you.
The state really doesn't have a long-term portfolio. We really don't have investments that are more than 3 years. The reason for that is because we always have to make money liquid very quickly in order to give it over to the controller to be able to spend that money. Now, market conditions will depend whether we're doing, corporate paper, whether we're doing more municipal bonds or federal, treasuries, things like that. But ultimately, the good news for us is that it doesn't come down to what we as individuals think, because we're on a board that have two of the most brilliant people in the state to help out with that. And we've got a great staff, most of whom I will keep from Zach's office, that helps guide that as well. So I look forward to leading that staff, but I trust them.
Bill Carnes, Nevada Veterans Association. I would love to go to a World Series game with you two guys rooting for opposite teams next to each other. I'm buying tickets. I got to tell you. So I'm going to move this to a different area of
that we
finances.
agree on, Jeff. We agree on the Cubs.
Okay. Do you hear that? You guys agree on the Cubs. There you go. So my research shows that Nevada's unfunded liability is at a roughly $20 billion. 90% of that, roughly, is for PERS, which is the Public Employee Retirement System. It is feasibly possible to get legislation passed. It could be introduced from the Treasurer's Office that ends PERS for new hires. It would still need to be carried through for all current and existing employees of the state that are on it. But if it were to end, we would eventually, within a couple of generations, be able to fund that, get rid of it, no longer have to deal with it. Do you support that sort of idea to eliminate 90% of the unfunded mandates in Nevada? Or do you have another way that you believe is a better way to finance the roughly $20 billion of unfunded mandates?
Again, I support Zach's treasury right now. So I wouldn't change that, but again, my expertise comes in long-term game and some of my own findings and the solution I'll come in with to the office, and that's where I will build stable investment along the lines of rainy day funds or social wealth funds or sovereign wealth funds, whatever you want to call.
So first of all, the treasurer really doesn't have anything to do with PERS. Unfortunately, I would love for the treasurer to have a hell of a lot more to do with PERS. But states right now who are screwed, like us, are screwed because they're doing guaranteed benefits rather than guaranteed contribution. And so I would love to see what you're proposing, which is basically make sure that the people who've been promised the retirement that they have get the retirement they've been guaranteed. Obviously, we'd be facing a lot of lawsuits if we took that away at this point. And then for new hires, make sure that we change it to a more reasonable, taxpayer-friendly system that still encourages people to come and work for the state.
So I have a different perspective because I come from the state of Illinois, where the pensions are the most underwater in the country. My friends proposed a bill to do just exactly what you said that passed, and the Supreme Court struck it down. My dad is a government pension person. He was a teacher. I would keep and Drew's right, the treasurer doesn't have anything to do with PERS. Our pensions are about 75% funded right now. They should be over 80. I would exactly do that. I would keep the pensions for the people that have it. But new hires, I would set up a 401k system like Indiana has. They love it. And wean us off of the public pension thing that bankrupts us, because defined benefit will bankrupt you versus defined contribution. Defined contribution is the way to go. Corporations did it back in 1987. And I think states should follow the lead.
So I'm going to ask just a quick follow-up of that. Would that take legislation to do?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
Yes, it absolutely would. And I could introduce that bill, But it should, and I'm happy to do it, but it should come from the legislature. Thank you.
All right, so we've come to the end of our interview portion for today's event. I'd like to give each one of you 1 minute for closing remarks, starting with you, Drew.
Thank you for having me. I want to spend this time talking about veterans. So veterans, there are a few things that we can do as treasurer to help veterans. Number one is with unclaimed property. Veterans and active duty personnel have more unclaimed property than the average group of people in America because they're moving so often. So having a national clearinghouse that works together, different state treasurers working together to make sure that your money is automatically given back to you, rather than having to fill out all these forms and jump through all these hoops. That's going to be a bill that I put forward. Also, 529s, the state has a match for veterans' families, and I want to make sure that every single veteran knows that their family members are eligible for that match and can have a head start towards going to school, going to trade school, whatever that is. So I will fight for veterans. I hope to earn your endorsement. Again, Drew Johnson, running for state treasurer.
So instead of saying what I will do, I'll share with you what I have done. Under President Obama, GI Bill going for business loan, I was directly involved in bipartisan effort. I represented White House and working with Senator Moran. So I already done that. So it's in the past, and I'm very close to the well-being of veterans, from all the way housing and everything else. So I've done it before. I will do anything I can to help veterans. It's very close to my heart. Some of my closest friends are veterans from USC Court and all. So that's all I want to say, just based on what I've done.
Just an aside, I was on the National World War II Museum Board in New Orleans, so I think I appreciate veterans pretty well. My father-in-law was a veteran, and my uncle is too. I'm very different than anybody that's running the race. I'm not a career politician. I've never run for anything in my life. I have a 40-year career in finance. Nobody else in this race does. It's highly successful. I took a company public. I invested in startup companies. I've created all kinds of value no matter where I've been, and I can do that for Nevada on day one. I would say that the Nevada State Treasurer needs to be a person that understands technology, because finance is going to change so rapidly in the next 10 years that if you haven't been under the hood investing in it and dealing with it like I have, you won't understand it. And Nevada is going to get left behind, or that treasurer is going to try to do something and they're going to make a mistake, or they're going to adopt technology that doesn't work. I have that experience. I'm the only one in the race with experience. I'm at jeffcarternv.com, and I'd like your support and vote on June 9th.
All right, that concludes today's interviews. Once again, I'd like to recognize and thank our sponsors: Mary Perry, Clark County District Court, Family Division, Department P; Christine Brewer, Clark County District Court, Family Division, Department S; Chris Cannon, North Las Vegas Municipal Court, Department 1; Veterans in Politics International, and the Nevada Veterans Association, and all of our additional sponsoring partners for their leadership, support, and dedication to veterans and to the integrity of our non-judicial process. Thank you.
Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, live stream on Facebook.